With Wemby coming off a Rookie of the Year season and a highly betted to win DPOY this year, how good can he get? And will that lead to team success this early on in his career? I mean, first off, we got to look at Wemby. His rookie year was one for the books, bro. I mean, 21 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 3.6 blocks, and 2.2 personal fouls average per game. That's, if you know me, that's what I like to focus on when I talk about like good paint, like rim protectors, paint, just like guys who come in and really like block shots, you know, intimidate everyone, not coming inside of the rim. Wemby does that. I mean, because you get 3.6 blocks per 2 fouls. So if a guy comes in, you have literally you have more of a chance to go block that dude if you're Wemby than you are to foul. Like that just is what he's showing us. Now, does that mean everything? No, there's some, but there are guys that are good defenders and good shot blockers that we see have this like block to foul ratio. It's kind of like the assist to turnover ratio for point guards. Kind of that same vibe where it's like, hey, he's got like Tyus Jones. We covered him in the Suns video. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. But he had like 7 assists to 1 turnover, or like less than a turnover. So it's like, yeah, we're gonna get 7 assists off from this dude, and we're only gonna turn over the ball once. So Wemby, you're getting 3.5 blocks for every 2 fouls. It's pretty good. There's some guys who average like 4 fouls and like 1.5 blocks. So Wemby's definitely upper echelon already, to like in terms of his defensive prowess as a rookie and as a sophomore. As you can see right here, Wemby was on the All Defensive First Team, Rookie of the Year, and second in DPOY voting in his first season. I mean, that's crazy. And the only person I can think of to like kind of compare him to is another Spurs legend, Tim Duncan. I mean, Tim Duncan, this dude, his rookie year averaged, bro, he had 21, 12, and 3 with 3 blocks. So he was 2.5 blocks per 3 personal fouls. So Tim Duncan averaged more personal fouls than blocks in his rookie season. And he was 5th in MVP voting, NBA, like all NBA first team. That's crazy as a rookie. Second defensive team, he was an all-star, he was rookie of the year, and he was 5th in DPOY. So that's as close as we can get. Wemby had a phenomenal season, but Tim Duncan had probably one of the greatest rookie years of all time. And so when I can only think of like Tim Duncan to compare to Wemby in terms of like big man rookie years, that's a pretty good start for Wemby fans, right? Including myself. I love Wemby. I want a jersey. That's my guy. I'm French. I'm not French. I lived in France. Speak French. If longtime viewers of the channel know that. So that's why I like Wemby. That's my guy. So this season, I think Wemby is DPOY, no question. I held a straw poll, and it should be coming out. I should have actually posted that this past weekend, but I'm doing this series, so it's kind of locked in. But you'll see. I had you guys, the viewers, vote. 80% of you guys said that Victor was going to win DPOY. I don't even think that's a question. I think he's going to be easily the best defensive player of the year, because other guys who are in contention might be like Bam or Rudy, and Rudy is going to have some major like pushback this year, because if he wins DPOY this year, it's his 5th, which is a record-setting league first. So you can't just, unless he plays out of his mind defense, I don't think Rudy's going to get the DPOY this year. So he's kind of like out. I think he's like 5th in rankings right now. Then it's guys like AD, Jaren Jackson, you know, guys like Drew Holiday. So I think Wemby has a very, very good chance at actually winning and taking home the award in his second year. I heard a good point where the Spurs this past year were like 20th in their overall defense, but when Wemby was on the floor, they were like top 5. So you can't be a middling defense and have the DPOY. You got to have like a top maybe 5 defense, I'd say. I don't know. I don't really know what the parameters are on that, but I would say top 7 to top 5. You got to be in like the very high percent to win DPOY, because if you're the best defensive player of the league, your defense, your team's defense, as a result of you, has to be extremely high. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I think he's going to win it. We can just chalk it up. Let's move on. But I want to talk about my used to be favorite player of all time, now joining this team, and what his impacts are. Now, Chris Paul, I mean, you get some veteran stuff with Chris Paul. He's not going to be an amazing defensive guard, right, like he was in the past. He's still a great free throw shooter. Still elite veteran presence. He's like elite in terms of like coaching and court vision and like veteran presence and stuff like that. I tried to look this up in terms of like who literally has thrown the most lobs in NBA history. Couldn't find something like that. There was no like stat that I could find that was super clear. But I can easily and confidently say that Chris Paul is one of the best lob throwers of all time. I don't think anyone's going to dispute that. So having him and Wemby on the same team, it's not going to win you a championship just because he could throw lobs and Wemby's really tall and he can catch lobs. That's not the game plan every single time. But That's going to be very interesting to see. I know we saw a little bit of the preseason where Chris Paul pump fake, kind of drove left, faked, and then kind of flip shot and like looked like it was going to be a floater, and then just like tossed it to Wemby, and Wemby just like space jammed it. That's going to happen a lot. It's going to be very hard to guard down the stretch in terms of closing games. It's going to be very interesting to see how they close games, because the Spurs, not super good in closing games last year. They lost a lot of the games because they were so close, but they just couldn't pull it out because they have a lot of young guys. So having Wemby, who's already, in terms of mental prowess, elite and ahead of a lot of guys, especially the guys his age and that are older than him even, he's up there. And then you got Chris Paul and then Greg Popovich. It's going to be very interesting to see how far these Spurs go. But this last year, you could definitely see that Chris Paul was on his way out. So I didn't really want to talk about like this past year's stats because he was on the bench and there was a bunch of stuff. So the last year that he like started, which is going to be like mirroring the role that he's playing this year, starting in San Antonio, he was in Phoenix and he averaged 14, 4, and 9. So like I said, still a pretty good free throw shooter, like 83%, as we can see right here. Great lob thrower. I want to talk about his decision because this is kind of like the Tyus Jones decision where everyone was like, oh, Tyus Jones needs to go to Phoenix, and that would be great. Like, seriously, everybody was talking about that. And then he does. And everyone was like, yo, I heard a lot of people saying Chris Paul needs to go and just finish out his career in San Antonio, play with Wemby. And then he did it. And it's for like $11 million a year, I think. So I don't even think that this is like a signing where, hey, let's sign Chris Paul and then like dump him at the trade deadline. I think you just keep him and ride with it. Like, that, why not have that guy? Like, for Chris Paul, that's a phenomenal decision to go there and be like, you know what? I don't want to come on the bench anymore. I want to play. I want to play basketball, have some fun, and mentor like one of like the best players in the league upcoming, right? So I think it was a great decision on his part. However, in terms of depth, Spurs are okay. I mean, they're kind of interesting. You got Chris Paul, Devin Vassell out, Harrison Barnes, another very good pickup, very good vet pickup. Jeremy Sohan, then you got who they play the point guard. Glad they're putting him back at the 4. Then Wemby, Trey Jones, Stephon Castle, who's looked very, very good and very, very interesting. Everyone's like, oh, he's a vet. He plays super similar to like how vets play, and he's chill, and all that stuff. Then Champagnie, Keldon Johnson, Zach Collins. So these guys back here have gotten some playing time. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they move the rotation pieces. They play a lot of their old guys a lot, like Barnes and Paul. Are they giving them 30 to 32 minutes a game? Wemby, how's he going? And what's the jump look like for him? Because he was on a minutes restriction for a little bit there last season. So that was really interesting. So I want to see what Devin Vassell looks like off the ball. Sohan looks like off the ball. Keldon Johnson looks like off the ball on the bench now. Stephon Castle. Overall, I think this team looks very, very interesting, but they're not going to be one of like the elite premier teams in the West yet. Wemby will let them do that and allow them to do that later on in his career. But this season, they are pretenders. They are not going anywhere. I think I put them as like fringe play-in, which would be super fun to watch. Could you imagine watching Wemby and Chris Paul in like a win or go home situation where it's like one game to go to the playoffs? That would be a game to watch, dude. So I think that they'll be in that scenario where it's kind of like a fringe play-in, maybe 9 or 10 seed. Or maybe 8 seed, who knows? I don't know if they can win a ton of regular season games, but if they can get to the play-in, they might make it to the playoffs just because of like straight up one game to one game playing against Wemby is going to be rough. So that's pretty much all I got for that. We are nearing the end of this series. The NBA season starts today if you're watching this today. So I'm going to try and finish. I think I've got 3 more videos to do. And then a lot of fun stuff. If you are interested, I've mentioned this a lot. I'm doing a lot of a push for this because I think it's going to be kind of fun. I'm reviewing the NBA every single night. After every single game. That same night at like 10 p.m. Just unedited. Come on here, click record, edit it, throw it up on members only. It's on my members only for like, I set it to $2 a month. So you can go click join, $2 a month. You will be getting daily NBA reaction from me, and then I'll be making videos and you'll get insights and that kind of stuff. It's a fun way to support me, and that's a kind of a fun way for me to stay watching the league and showing like, hey, I watch the league all the time. I was thinking about something like, I watch a lot of games anyways. You know, why don't I just like go on and just like kind of talk about what I want to talk about immediately after. And then every Saturday on the channel, I want to kind of do like a weekly recap and talk about a bunch of different stuff, like a dump. And that'll include a lot of stuff that you see early. So that's pretty much that. That's all I got for today. Check out the rest of the videos if you haven't seen them already. The playlist should be linked like right above my face. So that's all I got for today. We out.